and welcome to Day 3 of ASAE's Virtual Technology Exploration Conference. This is Association's Now Live, and I'm Julie Shoup. Thank you for joining me. Over the past 2 days, we've been having a kind of a meta experience, using technology to come together as a community to talk about technology. That seems pretty spot on for the times we're in, and we hope you've been gaining valuable new insights in your tech-powered interactions with each other. Now, if you're like a lot of folks in the association world, you've probably been forced well out of your comfort zone lately. Many things can't be done the way they've always been done, and pivoting requires risk-taking. This is a good thing, according to today's keynoter, tech entrepreneur Josh Linkner. He'll talk about that with Rashida Childress in just a moment. But before we get started with Josh, I'd like to thank Delcor, the sponsor of today's show. Here's a brief message from Delcor.
Hi, I'm Loretta DeLuca, CEO of Delcor. I'm sorry we aren't all together in person at ASAE TEC 20. Delcor's been a part of the 501c community for 30 plus years, and ASAE meetings are always great reunions, providing wonderful opportunities to make new association executive and technology partner friends. Nonetheless, it's great to see you virtually, and welcome. Delcor provides technology management consulting services to the association community. This includes system selections, project management, interim and outsourced CIO technology leadership, and digital workplace strategies and migrations. This work, combined with our longstanding managed services practice and technical teams providing top quality network infrastructure support, helps position our clients to further their mission and business objectives. We're very proud to be part of the community and can't tell you how much we appreciate our clients, business colleagues, and our alliance partnership with ASAE. Most of all, we really look forward to seeing all of you in person in 2021. Until then, stay safe and don't hesitate to get in touch. Thank you on behalf of all us Delcorians.
Welcome back. Today we've got keynote speaker Josh Linkner with us. Josh is an entrepreneur who served as CEO of 4 tech companies, which sold for a combined value of over $200 million. Today, he's also a best-selling author of books that help organizations foster innovation, creativity, and disruption. Thank you for joining us, Josh. Right now, the world continues to change rapidly, made even more unpredictable by the pandemic this year, and we haven't quite found our new normal. Are there any lessons in innovation that we can apply in these times of uncertainty?
Yeah, outstanding question, and thanks for having the chance to chat today. You're exactly right. And I don't know that that new normal is going to land on a single normal. It's going to be an evolving normal. It reminds me of the game of Frogger. We used to play the video game where you had to jump across the logs to get through across the river. And when you land on a solid surface, like the back of a turtle or an alligator, if you just stand still, you sort of fall in the river and die. And the trick of Frogger is you move from one solid surface to the next to the next. And I think that metaphor is what we're going to be looking at coming out of COVID, that there's going to be a new normal, but that will be a temporary new normal. And then that new normal will continue to evolve, which means that we as business leaders, as association leaders, need to stay in a constant state of reinvention, pushing our creative boundaries to adapt to changing conditions.
You've said that organizations underestimate the risk of standing still. What are 1 or 2 practical steps that an organization can take to sort of break that inertia?
Well, first of all, I think we need to really shine a bright flashlight on the real risk of standing still. You know, we all hear these business graveyard stories, the Blockbusters and Pan Am Airlines of the world. And so we tend to think that standing still is safe. And in fact, that can be the riskiest move of all. So I think we need to really look at the real risk of standing still. And then we have to de-risk the process of trying something new. Instead of coming up with an idea in the shower and betting your entire career on it, the best innovators take little teeny bets. I call them big little breakthroughs. So the notion is trying lots and lots of little controlled experiments. That de-risks the process of trying something new, and you only double down on an experiment once it is successful. So the notion again is look at the real risk of doing nothing and then de-risk the process of going forward. It allows us to kind of spread our creative wings without the risk of catastrophic failure.
So if you're talking about de-risk and sort of moving into smaller little things, that can bring us into sort of members. And associations are designed to be there for their members. How important is engaging members in this and other stakeholders in this process of innovation? And are there any tips for doing that effectively?
Yeah, it's critically important. I think one innovation mistake that's classic is that a bunch of people sit in a room and they think they know everything about their customers, and they just might be wrong. And so the closer that we can get to the voice of the member, the voice of the customer, the better. One of the things I love doing is creating an empathy map, which you can sort of map out exactly what that customer is thinking and feeling and doing and their beliefs. Another big thing I like to do is really take time to investigate what are the friction points? What are all the points of angst in that member's life? And then you can start to come up with innovative ways to reduce the pain for that person, ultimately to create more member value for those that we serve.
One of the things you suggested for spurring innovation is changing the constraints of business. And for many businesses, the constraints are built into that process. What are some first steps towards breaking free of those constraints?
Yeah, so to a degree, breaking free from the constraints can occur by embracing them. You know, when I talk to people, leaders all over the world about innovation, the first thing I hear is, oh, we really want to do that, but I don't have enough money or time or bandwidth or office space or equipment or materials. And the thing is this, that external resources are not what we need. In fact, those constraints actually can liberate creativity. If external resources equated to the amount of innovation that we have, the federal government would be the most innovative organization on the planet, and startups would be the least innovative organizations. And of course, we know that to be not true. So what I recommend people doing is looking at those constraints and seeing where is the opportunity. How can we make up for any gaps in external resources with those internal resources that we all share? Innovative or creative problem solving, inventive thinking, imagination. These are universal gifts that every walking human being, every living, breathing person, they have, but most of us, those capacities are dormant. So if we can liberate those in our organizations and ourselves, we start to tackle real problems and we start to seize real opportunities.
One of the things you've talked about in the past is also how sort of the standard office cubicle can be a barrier to innovation and a constraint. Now that people are working from their homes, and that's presumably an environment they feel really comfortable in, is there a way to use that to our advantage in innovation?
Yeah, so one of the things, if you think about who's a really creative group of people, you think of kindergartners and their room, their environment, it's always changing and it's colorful and there's all the stimuli. And then you think about who's the least creative people, and it's somebody sitting in a beige cube with fluorescent lighting and no windows. And so the more stimulus, the more inputs that we can create around us, and the more changes we can create around us, it will actually have a natural impact on our own creativity. So at home is great because it's comfortable, but I would suggest that we shake it up a little bit. Instead of sitting in that same chair in the same view and the same, just even move your desk around a little bit or sit in a different room. And we often hear this, oh, I was in the shower, I came up with a great idea. I was on vacation with my family. I was out in nature and I came up with a great idea. So we know that environment matters. So if you want to drive creative output, we need to think about what is the creative inputs. And the more that we can guzzle inputs from environmental factors, even sitting and listening to a great piece of music or looking at a piece of art before you tackle a creative challenge, can have a direct and measurable impact in terms of the quality of your outputs.
Thank you, Josh. This has been so informative. I can't wait to hear your keynote a little bit later today. Next, we're going to hear from a few attendees here at TEC about ways they've switched things up this year.
Hi, my name is Michiel Gen. I'm based in Brussels, Belgium, and I'm a partner in Exempla, an association development company. So how did we pivot this year? Well, fortunately, we already made the switch to Microsoft Teams last year, so we had all the infrastructure in place to collaborate from home. This year, we focused on designing new online formats to effectively deliver content and foster interaction between members. We also worked on innovating sponsorship strategies that deliver the value sponsors are looking for in online events. Next step is turning all this into more resilient association business models.
Hello, I'm David Cholander. I'm with Hospitality Technology Next Generation, a trade association based in Chicago. We were in the process of producing an annual award competition called the Tech Ovation Awards when COVID hit in March. So we had to pivot to virtual, and we produced it in May. It was a bit rough, but we got through it. The easiest pivot we've made is to working virtually. As a technology association, we're pretty technology literate. All of our technology is in the cloud already. We're paperless totally, so moving home was the easiest part.
We're back. As in so many other areas, technology is changing the way associations market themselves to their members and prospects. A deeper understanding of data and the use of new tools like machine learning are creating powerful new ways for associations to make their messages more personalized and relevant. Tech tools are also making it possible to better measure a campaign's results. My next two guests will be sharing their insights on tech-powered marketing in learning labs today. Chantal Almenord, CAE, is Director of IT Systems and Data Management at the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists. Kevin Hastings is Manager of Web Strategy at the American Institute of Aeronautics and Astronautics. Thank you both for being here today.
Thank you.
Good to be with you.
Yeah, Chantal, your session is all about how to make the most of an organization's data in creating campaigns and measuring their outcomes. I was surprised to read in your description that only about 20% of member data is held in the AMS at the typical association. Where else is data about members sitting that should be considered alongside what's in the AMS?
Well, one of the big problems in associations is the siloed data and having to use multiple suites and software to capture certain parts of the business operations. For example, the LMS, the learning management system and credentialing systems hold a lot of data that may not be coming back into the AMS 100%. Even when there's some integration, it's usually limited. Using a third-party event registration, for example, is another area where a lot of data is residing in an outside system. Donation, fundraising software, Google Analytics, and even social media holds a lot of valuable data on your members that if you were able to cross-reference with your AMS data, you could be far more specific in targeting in marketing efforts.
You mentioned events. Now, a lot of new data has been generated from all the virtual events associations have held this year. How can they begin to make sense of that for marketing purposes?
I think there's a lot of data there, and a lot of data that's not available with in-person events. For example, you could start investigating who's willing to attend virtually that never attended in person. So even when we get back to normal and in-person events, you might want to make sure you have hybrid situation where you provide something for those who don't attend in person. You can look at metrics as in, how long someone attends a session, or in general, is that session popular because people are seeing it, are watching it through the end. Offering sessions on demand after the event. There's a lot of data, and you can begin to make sense with just the basics of comparing what you have now that you didn't have with in-person events. And you can really cater to your audience, to the attendees, by giving them exactly what they want by looking at this data.
Right. Now, Kevin, your session explores how all this data can help associations personalize marketing using tools like machine learning and artificial intelligence. What are some of the most effective marketing uses of those technologies that you've seen?
Well, I think one thing that that we're working on to help empower our marketers here at AIAA is related to machine learning, and that we're developing a institute-wide taxonomy for our many technical terms across our publications library, and then having that interact with our CMS and now our new CRM that we're using. So the goal for that for our marketers is to take some of the more task-driven, time-consuming campaign work that they're doing, particularly when it comes to our publications products, and have the taxonomy drive that product placement for us across our separate publication CMS, but then have that work into our main institute website CMS and other products as well.
And I imagine that user behavior is a big part of this, watching what your users do, what they read, and so forth. How does that work in terms of tracking these behaviors for personalization purposes? Are you layering that in on top of your taxonomy work?
Absolutely. One key thing for us, like for really everyone in our space right now, and in nonprofit and the commercial world, is data governance and data organization. And so we need to make sure that we're getting a clear picture from our AMS to feed into our marketing products like our CRM, and digital experience platforms. But the key is really that data clarity, and making sure that we're getting a good picture of, not only that traditional AMS driven member model, but also really our full customer and our full community model.
This last question is for both of you. This past year has changed so much about the environment we're in that it seems like some data and behaviors from the past might be obsolete or almost meaningless. Do you think that's the case, and what data should people be using to inform their marketing tactics now? Chantal, let's start with you.
Well, I wouldn't say it's completely useless. I mean, it is data that is useful for moving forward, but you do also have to respect the new normal, as so many have put it, and start to really look at what's happening now. And I think you have to marry that with what's happened in the past and the behavior you've obtained from previously, and use that to move forward. I think it's a combination of both of them. There may be a return to that previous data when that previous behavior when all of this is over, and it may not, but it is definitely not useless. It is the baseline that we have.
Okay. Kevin, same thing. Do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I totally agree with where Chantal's coming from there, in that we are going to, we'll stay optimistic and hope that we can get back to that more in-person conference and event model. Of course, maybe that's later next year. We're not sure yet, but the information that we're getting from these virtual events is terrific. In our case, we're getting more international users. Those are people that we can bring into our community, and who knows, that the engagement that we get from the virtual event might transition that international community member into wanting to be a part of our in-person events moving forward.
Well, these are interesting times for association marketers, that's for sure. Thank you both for being here with me today.
Thank you, Julie.
Thank you.
Kevin's session is Optimizing Personalization and Marketing with Machine Learning and Analytics, and Chantal's is Marketing Campaign Measurement, Better Insights with Data You Already Have. Both are at 11:15 today.
I'm Samantha Whitehorn. While we heard from a few attendees earlier in the show, we wanted to give you the chance to get to know another colleague. And there's no better way to do that than by having them answer a few questions, 7 to be exact, about themselves and the work they do. Now I'd like to welcome Catherine Matthews, CAE, Manager of Data and Analytics at the National Council of Architectural Registration Boards. Thanks for joining us today, Catherine, and for sharing a little bit more about yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's start with a question I'm sure you always get asked. How did you end up in associations?
Like a lot of people, I fell into it. A coworker of mine left to go on to a new job that happened to be at an association, and a year later, a position opened up there, and she encouraged me to apply, and the rest was history. I'll never go back.
And what's one tech tool or gadget that you can't live without?
At this point in the pandemic and closures, everything, I need all of it. But fast internet is really what makes the difference. We're all living our life inside this rectangle these days, but having a good, strong connection to the outside world makes a difference.
And what technology could you live without?
Those little red badges on apps that tell you how many notifications you've missed, I've turned them off almost everywhere because they just stress me out.
During today's Pivot Fest, attendees are going to share what they've done to meet some of the challenges of this year. What's one pivot you're especially proud of?
I'm really proud of the Tech Council. I'm the chair for it this year, and we've been thrown quite a few curveballs, but the group's been amazing and willing to just keep trying and innovating and rolling with all the punches. It's a really committed group of awesome people, and I'm very, very proud of them this year.
Since it's the last day of Tech Virtual, what will be your beverage of choice?
I think probably another cup of Irish tea that a good friend gave me. I'm trying to stay sharp and make sure my brain sponges up all the learnings.
And what's your favorite part of your current job?
That's a good one. I don't know. I like a lot of things. Perhaps my favorite thing is just the autonomy that I have. I've been told in the past that I'm rather unmanageable. And so my boss understanding that and giving me kind of wide space to do my own thing makes a difference.
And question number 7, if you weren't an association exec, what job would you have instead?
So I'm a big work nerd. I'd probably geek out about just about anything that you put me in, but growing up, I did always want to be an astronaut. So if they still need people for Mars, sign me up.
Thanks again for joining us, Catherine.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Before we wrap up today's show, here's another short message from our sponsor, Delcor.
Hi, Loretta DeLuca from Delcor here again. Before you log off for the day, I just wanted to point you in the direction of delcor.com/resources. Lots of great insights on association technology provided not only by our Delcorian team, but by many of you who have appeared as guests on our Association Tech Talk video series, hosted by yours truly, and our Reboot IT podcast, hosted by Delcor President Dave Coriel. Thank you.
That's it for Associations Now Live. Thank you again for joining us this morning and for being here at Tech Virtual this week. As we get ready to say goodbye, or perhaps good riddance, to 2020, we're looking forward to great things ahead in 2021, when we hope to see many of you again in person. For now, have a great day.